Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today let's review Ashen. Ashen is a third-person action game inspired by Dark Souls, and it has this dreamy but not very detailed aesthetic, and it really stands out from the crowd. It looks really unique, and the world building, so from a design point of view, is very consistent. There are various regions that sort of flow into each other, and it feels very natural. You know, it's not like in Dark Souls where the areas seem to be thrown together. I mean, they're really good areas and very unique, but Dark Souls had this feeling that it was kind of thrown together in a way. Not here. Ashen is very much designed and stylized, if you know what I mean. This world never feels like an actual place where people used to live, contrary to Dark Souls. I mean, the areas seem to be thrown together, but it feels like people used to live there, or that the place where people used to live got corrupted. And there is a lot of environmental storytelling in Dark Souls, not so much in Ashen. In Dark Souls, you have all these cues and clues of what happened, even to the point where the bosses have a backstory. Again, not in Ashen. It's not to say that this is not a pretty looking game. As I said, it has this very unique aesthetic. It's very pretty. It's just not like it's alive, or it has been alive. And in terms of story, it's about the world being dead and you sort of trying to bring some life into this world, I guess. But nothing really changes in the world. And you have this village, and that's, I think, the saving grace of Ashen is this village that starts really small, and as you progress, the buildings start to shape up, and NPCs will come to your village and give you quests. So that's a nice thing. But the story is actually really awful, I guess. It tries to mimic the vague Dark Souls mumbo-jumbo story, and it has some utterly bollocks dialogue. I mean, Japanese games can pull this shit off. Western games like Ashen cannot. So why try? Also, the voice acting in Ashen is hit and miss. Some of the voices are great, some of the voices are really over the top. Now, exploring and traversing the world is somewhat clunky, especially climbing. It's not always easy to climb certain rock formations. It's sort of a hit and miss, and I guess it has to do with the way that the world is designed, but it's somewhat cumbersome at times. What's nice, though, is that as you progress, you unlock these fast travel points in the world. So you basically work your way through the world in a linear fashion, and because of that, there's no real incentive to come back to an earlier area because you have outgrown the enemies there. They don't pose a challenge anymore, so it is very much a linear game. Not much of an open... Well, it is an open world, but it has a linear progression. So once you've seen the place, there's really no reason to come back to that place. Now, along the way, you'll meet various NPCs that you can help out, and they will come to your village, as I said, and they have pretty nice side quests or personal quests for you to do. Again, personal storylines are interesting, but the quests themselves sort of boil down to going to a place, kill something, or going to a place and get something and bring it back. Like find some tools for the smithy, find some tablet and bring it back. It's something like that. And each time you finish a quest, you're rewarded with a bigger health bar, new talismans that you can craft. There's a lot of stuff you can craft in the village. You can craft your swords, your weapons, I mean. There are one-handed weapons, two-handed weapons. It's pretty much melee all the time. That's all you do. And there are also some armors around the world that you can pick up and use. Again, a lot of stuff can be crafted in your village. So you can sort of buff your character with stronger weapons, with better talismans that you found in the world. So that's a good thing. I like the exploring, I like to finding stuff in the world. Now the combat is what you'd expect from a Souls-like game. You mostly run around, you roll, you block, you fast strike, or you use your heavy strike, depending on what kind of weapon you're wielding. Now, all these actions, they take away some stamina, so you have to take that into consideration. It's really looking for that signaling of the enemy, and then sort of respond accordingly. The controls in combat are responsive enough. I mean, Dark Souls is not a difficult game per se. It just requires patience and reading the signals of the enemies and exploiting their weaknesses. In Ashen, as I said, there's a bit of that, but the game sort of throws a lot of enemies at you, usually. So it is kind of difficult to sort of anticipate all these enemies' attacks, because you have to focus on a multitude of enemies, which means that you, at some point, you just resort to hacking and slashing, because that's probably the best way to do it, to get the whole fight over with. So in that way, it's not as much as Dark Souls as I would have liked. It's more of a hack and slash game with some Dark Souls injected into it. I think that's the best way to describe it. Ashen is more of a forgiving game. You get an NPC that accompanies you. They serve as distraction. They do fight well, but you know, they do die quite quickly, especially when you're traversing these rather large areas between these altars where the game saves. So halfway through the place, the character will die. So you're on your own fighting multiple enemies at a time. But you know, for the most part, the NPCs do a good job at fighting and being a distraction and trying to resurrect you when you go down. Although sometimes they do get stuck in the environments, which is a bit of a bummer. You can turn off the NPC so you can do it all yourself, but that's not really the way that this game was designed. It is designed with co-op in mind. Now here's the biggest problem with the game. The co-op is what they call like a passive multiplayer, which means that people should be able to join your game and then they control the NPC that accompanies you through the world. But I found that nobody's playing this game anymore, so you are depending on an NPC. If you're playing this now in 2021, it's going to be difficult for you to play this solo with only the NPC at your side. Because as I said, in later stages, the levels become kind of a grind, or the places you visit, like this palace. It's a very repetitive place with similar looking corridors and halls, and there are just way too many enemies there. So in solo, you're just going to be super frustrated, and it's a shame because it makes it very hard to recommend playing Ashen in 2021 because nobody's playing this anymore. You know, the whole novelty of it is gone. Everyone who probably wanted to play it back when it came out have already played it, so there's no really an incentive to come back to play it once more. You know, you really have to be lucky, I guess, but in my whole playthrough, there was nobody who joined my game and helped me out in certain parts. And you need help in certain parts, because you will be swarmed by enemies. So, and that's just going to frustrate a lot of people. And there's just not enough anymore nowadays to really warrant playing Ashen. And it's really a shame, because this game has a lot going for it. It has the aesthetic, it has the look and feel, and the combat is fun enough, but it's just not playable anymore in 2021, which is unfortunate. So no, I cannot recommend you picking up Ashen in 2021 unless you are an avid Souls-like fan, but then again, you probably have already played Ashen. So for new players coming in, you're going to hit that wall. You're going to hit that wall and you're going to be frustrated and probably stop playing this. That's it. That's what I think of Ashen. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.